Now. Hello and good morning. And we are here with Beth Scher, and she's a member of NAWAFL Florida. She's past president. And here I will tell you a little bit about herself before she starts her presentation. Beth Scher is a visual artist working in a variety of mediums in order to impart a particular political viewpoint concerning the role of women in the military. She graduated from the University of Arts in Philadelphia with an MFA in studio art in December of 2013. Since then, she has appeared in many group shows and exhibitions in New York, Chicago, and Florida. She has been featured in the Arts and Culture section of the July 23rd, 2014 issue of the Huffington Post and the October-November 2014 issue of Bust magazine. Please welcome Beth Scher.
Hi, everybody. I'm going to start sharing the presentation. Okay. Um, Hi, everybody. I have a particular political viewpoint on how to approach my art. So I just wanted to give you a brief history of why I chose this particular view. This is my first, this is one of my first forays into what I consider the evolution of my art in this particular genre. Um, I had originally, back in 2007 and 2009, I had been on trips to Israel. And one thing I did notice was the female soldiers. They were pretty much all of them gorgeous and very, very teenager-like to say they're what I saw from them. They were vulnerable kind of girls, very much like they would be in the United States. However, they had guns and they were obviously trained, and they were the same age actually as my daughter had been. And I saw like the dichotomy of what it would be like for somebody who was in the United States who had no such training or no such knowledge of what it is to be in the military, and these women who had to serve. So that's why became very interested in this particular subject. Um, so I have a number of series. This particular series is called Modern Soldier, and you will notice that I have various mixed media um, type of art. And just as a background of what is in military for women, I'm going to go over a few things that I have um, as it was over as part of my thesis when I did my MFA. So it sort of gives you a background of the political view of what I saw in my artwork. So, first thing I wanted to say is that in Israel, particularly, women who are conscripted had to be 18 to 24 age, but serve for 24 months in the army, while men have 3 years as a service. And there are some exemptions for service, such as religious, pregnancy, or motherhood. Religious is probably the most prevalent of all those exemptions. And they said there are approximately 55% of all women have served in the Army. I also want to talk a little about gender equality, which is in 2001, there was the Women's Equal Rights Law, which made women service equal to men. And following this amendment, women started serving in infantry in light combat roles. and artillery corps and various armor divisions. There's also a full-fledged mixed sex infantry now called Caracal, and it's a battalion that is now has now been in battle, and I'll tell you about that later. The next series I did was called Our Daughters, and as you can see, I didn't include the nails and the yarn that I will tell you about later, but I went into a smaller size, uh, more kind of a more abstracted type of type of art, even though it is representational. I did more. I used Photoshop a little bit more and did a lot more with different kinds of techniques, such as I used this interesting flat paint that it's not I forgot what it was called, but it's a flat paint that it's sort of used. It's hard to mix, so it's you use one particular color on the particular, and this is another one of those. In the in combat roles, just for informational purposes, during the 1947 to 1949 Palestinian War, women were employed in full combat roles. But after that, they were, as I said, in light infantry positions. And in the Caracal Battalion, women comprised 70% of the group strength. And they, as I said, they were able to serve in combat positions, including tank crews, intelligence collection, and search and rescue. The Caracal unit was involved in the tense fighting of October 7th, 2023, which is when the war began, the Gaza war began. In that, female soldiers battled militants for nearly 4 hours as part of a broader effort to repel incursion. They played a very decisive role in clashes, and they killed approximately 100 Hamas members. And to the credit, no female soldiers were killed during that particular combat, which is the validation of their abilities. And it was proven that women can execute infantry missions effectively when given the requisite training. This is another one of those. To touch briefly on sexual harassment, which is also part of the military, a concern with the military, for women particularly. Generally, there are a few cases that are ever brought to the to the forefront, and they say approximately 1 in 5 women soldiers are subject to sexual harassment. And that is something that has to be addressed. It has been addressed in the UN, but it still is not. It has not been forward of a forward thing. And also, one thing I wanted to point out in the Israeli military, they do have a very robust uh, promotion service, so that they do have a lot of women who are colonels, uh, and some are early generals too as well. So they do have a very robust promotion. I also want to touch now on soldiers of other countries. This is was a series that I did where I used collage as well, images from various places such as the internet. I have photos of people generally from the internet. So this particular piece is from women from Russia. And there are many countries that have, actually, there are not that many countries that have some form of conscription for women, such as North Korea, China, as I said, Israel, Libya, Sweden, Malaysia, Peru, and Denmark. Those are the very few people who conscript women into service. This particular one is from the Philippines. Women in who are not conscripted, it's called the volunteer service, obviously. They apply for a number of reasons other than they have to be in conscripted. There's an alternative to college education. There's economic reasons for them to serve. This is from China. So, what do we learn from women in war? Society will allow women to serve in necessary positions, but few are allowed in combat, actual combat. They provide a necessary service, but they're not often treated the same as male counterparts. They're also subject, as I said, to sexual exploitation and exposed to harassment. This particular one is Women in War, Australia. And why do I focus on this important issue? Considering what happened now in Gaza and Israeli attacks on Lebanon and the West Bank, and also rampant anti-Semitism that's now occurring, there is a need for strong women to serve. And it is my hope, as I said in my artist statement, that someday there will be little need for such a military, especially one that utilizes women in often dangerous situations. We can celebrate the beauty of these women in other constructive, peaceful ways other than send them into battle. This is Women in War from Sweden. Um, it demonstrates some of my work where I put the yarn embroidered into using nails into the piece. It's sort of there, they give sort of a 3D uh, look to them. It gives it another dimension. And this I use yarn embroidered into the work, and it sort of gives a soft versus hard look to it. And the original purpose, in my mind, to do this was called women's work from back in the feminist days of the 70s. So there have been a number of women's uh, exhibitions over over the years that have done particularly have given women's work a a front row view in their exhibitions. So the homage is to the work of the modern feminists, such as people like Judy Chicago, Eleanor Antin, Faith Reingold, and Miriam Shapiro. And these are just a few of the ones that I have looked up that I admire in various ways. Not all of them do necessarily do women's work, but are from the 70s feminist movement. And inadvertently, the nails, some of my viewers that have seen the work have seen the nails as bullets, which was sort of a an accidental an accidental part of the project. It wasn't really something that I intended to do, but they can represent that. Um, and basically, that is, I think that is all the pictures. Yes, that's all. I have just my contact information and anything there that you have a question on was
I think that
This,
is so wonderful. I've never seen anyone do a whole study like this on women. It's a historical lesson that's going to go on for hopefully, the future for decades and decades, where people see where women's role were actually part. Because our history books don't talk about women, and they didn't talk about them at all when I was growing up. So
right.
you're capturing a section that is really needed, and it's a wonderful way that you did it as a visual art. I really appreciate the thought and the work that you do to make this.
I
yeah.
I agree, Beth. I love your subject matter, and now I'd like you to kind of, if you would, just give me a sense of your medium. How do you achieve the look that you get? And I know that you add the embroidery, which, boy, what a nice tangible addition. But I'm really curious about how big these are, how you yeah,
Well,
your
I
mediums.
generally work in more manageable sizes. Uh, it's sort of, it's interesting, but half the time it's whatever fits in my car to transport. So I try to keep something under, I would say 40 inches would be the maximum. But this particular one that I did was 30 by 40. The one that I put at first, which happens to be my favorite piece, um, because it sort of embodies what I trying to impart to people. So I used in that particular thing, I used burlap as a background on wood, and I used acrylic paint because that was the the best medium to use on that particular surface. Um, I like I liked using the nails. They're not easy to do, so I so I try to limit them to specific locations that have sort of like a meaning or a background. And it's like, for instance, the I don't know if I remember the one, if I could bring that up. Maybe I'll bring that particular one up, which is sort of a conglomeration of every single um here I go. And I want to get to uh this. Let's just put up the particular piece. There it is. Do you see that particular piece? It's got the mines in it. Yeah, that's sort of it was sort of I put the particular pieces of the embroidery were on the to make the mines stand out so that they were more it was more of a what to say, a bringing out of the work so you could sort of shock, it's sort of a shock value, so to say. Um,
Did you
and
always use the silver for the nails, or did you sometimes mix it up with copper? Or
they're mostly like a gold, I guess a golden kind of nail.
yeah,
They're
do you have
they're
a reason for it? Just for the aesthetics, or because you had some thought in there on that?
I when I started using them, that was the actually the most durable to put them in, because it's very difficult for some nails they were too soft. So I used a harder over the time. I used harder nails. I ordered a lot online because they had to be a certain, because otherwise they were going to fall out.
Yeah, it almost gives a three-dimensional feel to
Yeah,
certain areas of the piece, which is really attractive.
that
Beth,
was,
Beth, can you hear me? I don't know if I'm muted.
who is that?
Nadine.
Oh, Nadine,
Yes,
I
I
can hear
can hear
you.
you.
Good. I've admired your work for a long time, and I'm wondering if you could speak just a little bit to how you think about this in terms of composition and organization of the graphic, because they're very strong and very powerful. What is your process?
Generally, I work from photographs, so a lot of the composition is either taking the photograph or getting them off the internet, getting the visual off the internet. So I I use particular uh, subject matter, and I work with what I have using those compositions. So as I said, it's sort of a predetermined from
Your
the
visual.
photograph or the view on the internet. So, and a lot of them I will like, for instance, this particular one is generally a a more I didn't want to, the background is so simple. I didn't want to take away from the two women. So I used um, a simple background on this particular one. So I wanted to bring forward the women instead of have you have it too busy.
And they look so incredibly young, they look like,
They are incredibly young.
that's what's so scary. Babies,
Babies with
That's
guns.
somebody's little kid.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
the use of media, your selection of media to reinforce the idea is really quite admirable. And are you using primarily pastel in there? I'm trying to figure out some
no,
textural qualities that you're able to achieve.
it's a if I an interesting it's Golden makes a flat paint, and that's what it is. It's called Golden Flat. I just saw the
So it's acrylic.
so it's acrylic, but
Yeah.
it's it's sort of a textural paint. It's not like the other golden paints can be thin, and this particular paint, you put it on and it's totally matte. It's not shiny at all, and it gives it a dimension to it, to a little bit dimension. Oh, the other kind of paint that I know of is flash, but it's not. Flash paint is the one that I was trying to say earlier. It's similar to that. It's similar to flash paint, but it's not. Flash paint sort of peels after a while. It's not permanent. This is more of a permanent flat acrylic. So that's what I've been using currently, like on this particular one. The other ones I was using regular acrylic, and it was, I think because of the burlap. The burlap sort of puts texture to the acrylic paint, so it makes it pop out then too. But I stopped using burlap when I went to the small paintings, like the ones I said in Our Daughters, and the collage paintings, which were the women in war from various countries. Those are very small too. They are really small. They're, I think, 12 by 12.
I like your
So
Russian one. How large is that one?
that's like 11 by 9. These are
Wow.
really small.
It's got a lot to it for a small spice.
Yeah. Yeah. As I said, it's what you could fit in your car. But these particular ones were in the Cornell Museum in 2017, I think it was. I there was a exhibition there, and I had half a room in there, and I had a whole bunch of these women in war from various countries in there. So that was kind of neat.
I think it's
So
wonderful. Are there any other questions or anything anyone
was
wants
one
to say?
question I
Oh,
saw. if I just get the,
Oh, actually, I was going to ask one thing. I put it, see, I put this stuff in chat just for my own memory. You were talking about women in your studies for the masters. Did you ever find out whether or not these other countries that don't conscript them, and maybe they do, also the ones that do, are they given a retirement type of a program where they have, medical and things like that? Is that the enticement?
yeah, I didn't go through yeah, I saw that
That's
question.
ours. That's in
No,
America. That's really the biggest enticement is not what you're doing when you're serving, but how much you get afterwards.
yes, there is in the United States. I don't know about any other countries. Although I would think the European ones, which I had mentioned, which were
I think it's
Denmark, yeah, and Australia, but I would think that North Korea would probably not necessarily do that, but I don't know
Yeah.
is the real answer to that. So that's my presentation.
Well, thank you so much. And for those that are watching that don't know me, I'm Roberta Milman-Ide, and I'm one of the two coordinators on these online host presentations. And bringing this to the public, not just our artists, but to the public is I think, a gift. And hopefully that any of our other artists in NOWA, Florida will take advantage of being able to get online and talk. I mean, how was your experience, Beth? You enjoyed it?
It was a little stressful at times, but otherwise it was educational for myself too, because I wanted to sometimes you do things and you think, oh, I'm doing it because I love painting and I love to put paint on a canvas. But there's really a why in the back of your head. Why are you doing this? And it's sort of interesting, especially when I said it was my MFA was sort of led me to think about the whys more. And I mean, it's a interesting point of view for me, especially in light of women in war. It's not a common subject that people look at in painting. So
Well,
that
you presented very nice and professionally, and you're an easy student. So anything you had and go over, you were quick and learning on it, and it's been a pleasure.
well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Everybody, thank you very much for listening and
Thank you. I'll be stopping the recording. Bye bye. Have a good day.